Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this special transmission on PTV World. I'm your host Khalid. But ladies and gentlemen, we all know the Pahalgam false flag operation. We all know what happened in after this false flag operation was held, and the intentions from the Indian side that were made quite apparent in the first resolve that was taken out by the Indian side by, of course, putting in abeyance the Indus Water Treaty and so many other decisions that were taken. Pakistan's National Security Committee also took the necessary decisions as a result of that, and we also saw how our Pakistani politicians, how our Pakistani public, how our Pakistani media responded in unison. Despite that, India is hell-bent on creating a war-like situation within its own country. This attitude of beating the drums through the Indian media and blaming Pakistan for everything that happens in India is nothing new, but this time they are trying to take it to another notch, and Pakistan also has said it quite blatantly that if there is anything that happens from the Indian side, that Pakistan will respond befittingly. This said, our Prime Minister also in the Yaqoob passing out parade said very recently that Pakistan would like to have a neutral investigation by those people who are of a neutral nature, do not belong to India or Pakistan, could be the United Nations, could be some other, that need to have a thorough investigation into the Pahalgam false flag operation to ascertain who was behind it. I think this was a very timely decision that was announced by our Prime Minister, and all everybody is now looking towards India whether they will accept it or not, and this will also lead to a more open understanding on what India's true intentions are or what India wanted through this false flag operation. We have also been hearing so much through the Indian media about the Pakistan bashing, and how every little small word sentence is contorted and then put in a different perspective in order to align to the BJP's narrative. The saffronization of India, as we have been seeing since the last couple of years, is being made more and more apparent. The Hinduization of India is also being made more apparent, and the extreme Hindu mindset is also coming to the fore through the all that is happening post the false flag operation. We've been joined by Air Marshal Amir Masood Saab, who's a senior analyst online. We've also been joined in the studios by Farzana Yaqoob Sahiba, who's a former minister from the Azad Jammu and Kashmir. I'll begin with you, ma'am Farzana Yaqoob. I would like to understand, I do, but from your perspective, as to what India's intentions are. When you look at Indian media, when you look at the way they are, beating the drums as far as this war mongering is concerned, what is the real intention of India? To hide what is actually happening in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir valley, to hide what has been happening since the Waqf policy was approved? What is it?
So, India in all of this, clearly we can see that although India has been trying to portray that it is very successful in removing what they call the nuisance elements from Indian occupied Kashmir. There is this one narration, one project that they've been working on. But alongside it, what India has also been doing is that it wants to have more decision making power in the region. Now, for India to place itself where it perceives itself to be, which is India tries to show itself as a superpower, and for doing that, what it generally does is that it does these false flag operations. This is not the first time that they have used Indian occupied Kashmir for such experiments. As you know, whenever India wants to roll out some new atrocity, whenever India wants to tweak some new experiment where they want to hurt the Muslim minority, generally it chooses Indian occupied Kashmir to do so. Pahalgam is the recent most, and let us not forget Pulwama, let us not forget Uri, let us not forget Samjhota Express. There are multiple occasions where India has done that. But then look at what happens post such incidents. Does India carry out a proper, objective, neutral investigation? No. Does the investigation culminate? Seldom seen. What you will see is probably tweaked reports which fulfill their agenda, but never have they allowed any international agency to set foot and to investigate. They have never provided Pakistan any evidence when it comes to their allegations. Whenever Pakistan, and Pakistan has been very clear that if you have any evidence, please show it to us. Never has India done that. But look at how Pakistan works. When Pakistan catches Indian raw agents, Pakistan creates a proper file, the foreign ministry works on it, and then it is shared with all the relevant stakeholders. And who are these relevant stakeholders? Number one, India itself. And then United Nations, and whoever likes to, come and resolve this issue. So Pakistan always has hard evidence. It also catches the culprits. Who has India caught? Look back, and the only instance that I will remember recent most is also not very recent most, is what they did to Afzal Guru. And even in the judgment they had written that he was not being hanged because they had found evidence, or that he had perpetrated whatever the crimes that he was being staged for. They said that this is for India. They did it so that for the pacification or whatever it is that they are looking for. So even Pahalgam is going to go down as an episode where India tries to engage with its own local community. We have to remember that this is always whenever such incidents happens, who gets more benefit out of such incidents? Does Pakistan use India as a bashing bastion? Never. Does Pakistan need Indian conversation for its elections? Never. But India needs Pakistan all the time. They need this busyness of oh yeah, Pakistan has done this, oh Pakistan has done that, and it keeps its people busy in this hate mongering narrative. That oh, we need to put down Pakistan, oh Pakistan looked at us, oh Pakistan did this, oh Pakistan did that. Remember the pigeon episode? I mean, India has gone to
I mean, they will
all
go to any levels to do that.
They will
do
go to any
so,
level. And in this one, whatever happened in Pahalgam is really sad. Do also remember that it is not only Hindus which were murdered over there. There were Muslim, there was a Muslim, there was a Christian as well. But do you hear their names? No. They're only crying
there's a
about
deliberate agenda behind it,
Yes.
and that agenda is becoming more and more apparent with every passing day. Marshal, Amir, Masood sahab, thank you very much to have joined us online. How do you see the post Pahalgam false flag operation warmongering, let's put it that way, by India?
Well, I have to say it in one sentence. I would say that if their leadership has done some sort of war gaming, or they have some sort of clue of strategic thinking. I mean, if you see the game theory, which is one of the way of analyzing your decision making and what steps you are going to take. Secondly, I mean, this is one of those social sciences aspects which is being followed by any of the modern countries, and it ranges from tennis to takeovers, and from chess to child rearing, and from advertising to arms control. If they had a little clue, or their advisor have a little clue, I think they are going into an embarrassment trap, because they have put themselves into a decision dilemma, that they have raised the stakes so high in last couple of days after this stage managed incidents, that now they don't have many options except that they have to do something to satisfy their public. Last time, once they did this, they did have some sort of political objectives, and Modi was suffering from the defeat. Actually, he was at his lowest popularity at that time, once the 2019 elections were in process. And luckily, I mean, after that attack, though they were beaten badly, they suffered defeat tactically, their aircrafts were shot cleanly, and they suffered all sorts of defeat. But through their info ops, and through their Bollywood type of fake and deceit, they were able to manage victory in the elections. But having said that, this time, I mean, I don't foresee anything which they are going to gain out of any sort of action which they will likely take. As far as, we talk about the aspects of war which is being waged by them, they are already doing that on our Western front. And that is where I think that is what best suits them. And now if they start to go for any sort of hot action on the Eastern front, I don't foresee that the results will be very conducive for them. They are going to suffer something which is going to be remembered by the leadership and the forces for a long period of time. And they also know that, especially their military, their air force, they exactly know that they don't have many options. And there's not a differential of the military equipment, capability, training, etc., that they can, manage us and they will be able to subdue us or create any sort of dominance in a short period of time. They very much clearly know that, and we can, go into the numbers also. We can talk about all aspects of wargaming. But in the end, I would just like to say it very briefly that they have put themselves into a decision dilemma and in a trap where they are not very much clear because of the gap which exists between the military and the political leadership. And that gap is becoming more obvious, more visible. And I think this is where their decision making is very flawed. And I don't foresee that what really action they are going to take, which will be able to satisfy their public in the days to come.
But the way they have been portraying the whole false flag operation and the incidents post the false flag operation, and how they have been, staging this whole narrative and building this strategy or this environment within India, will it be easy for India to back out of it, or will they, at any stage of time in the next coming days, attempt something in order to appease their public?
Well, that is what I exactly am of the view, after whatever experience I do have of my training and of my, being a student of strategic studies and of military history. And for whatever, being a practitioner myself as a fighter pilot and seeing so many contingencies and also interacting with so many different air forces and leaderships in different courses, I personally think that, I mean, they are in a very difficult situation. If they think that diplomatically they're very strong and they will be able to get away with anything, anytime, that is a very flawed sort of thinking. For the reason that, I mean, you are talking against a neighbor, which is a big neighbor. I mean, Pakistan, by all means, has got a big population, big size, though we may be smaller than India. But then we have been repeatedly showing them the resolve in the contingencies which have been in the last 2 to 3 decades, starting from the nuclear and the Kargil and so many other fake sort of Uri attack and flag false flag operations which they have been carrying out. And they have very clearly been seeing this fact that our state of readiness has always been perfect. Our response had been very academic, very balanced, and very, in a way that we don't want to create any escalation. But then that thing has to finish at a certain point in time. Their repeated pricking and their repeated teasing, blaming, and what hysteria which they keep creating on the media. I personally don't like to be on the media for many years. I've been trying to resist myself, but the type of hysteria, deceit, and lie which they keep on telling on the media repeatedly have forced me to, I mean, say this thing that this immaturity has to finish at a certain stage. And their political leadership should realize this fact that they are a big part. That is why they don't achieve their greatness in the community of nations, because they are in their own trap. They are in their trap of showing themselves to be, you know, bigger than what they were actually. And they want to have control over their neighbors. The time they start to realize this fact, that Pakistan is here to stay, and they are a country which has got a lot of capacity, capability, resolve, motivation. And it's a part of our culture. For this country, our elders have given their blood. I mean, I would just like to say a small verse of Iqbal that शहीदों के लहू से जो जमीन सैराब होती है, बड़ी जरखेज होती है, बड़ी शादाब होती है. जिधर से गाजियां ने मिल्लत बेजाक गुजरते हैं, वहां की कंकरी भी गोहरे खुशाब होती है. So this is the land of people who have sacrificed for them, and they are here to stay. The time they start to realize this fact and start to honor their neighbors, start to respect their neighbors, and start to realize this fact as well, that in the stability of Pakistan lies their stability. I remember Mr. Obama once visited one of the university, and a student asked him that why are you always favoring Pakistan and helping them while they are abetting terrorism? So he replied very precisely, and that should have been a message for them. He said that India has to be the biggest stakeholder for stability in Pakistan. So such immature incidents, such immature rhetoric. I mean, you are making Abhinandan a hero, a fake hero, who himself has been telling repeatedly that I haven't shot any aircraft, and you award him the highest medal, highest gallantry award. Look at the international community doesn't know that he is the one who has been shot, and he has not shot a single aircraft. He was totally disorientated after takeoff. And you are making a hero out of him by giving him the highest award and then making a Bollywood story out of the whole case. So, I mean, this sort of immaturity shows their culture, their mindset, their thinking. And for this time, I think it's going to be my message personally for them that they should resist any further action
All
and for
right.
the times to come, because
All right.
now the patience is, I think, quite over. And whatever we are going to do is not going to be mired, or it's not going to be to control any sort of escalation. It will be something which is going to be remembered by them and for their generation for time to come. So this is very important for them to
All right.
remember.
Sir, before I move to my guests in the studios, I'd like to understand, I mean, this is just a question, a hypothetical question. In case India tries to, act as has been portrayed by the Indian media in the last couple of days, how battle ready are our forces?
I mean, there should be no confusion about that thing. I mean, there are certain sane voices also across the border also, and I'm sure they're going to ask him to, stop at a point and not to further go any further of, creating, crossing the border or challenging the sovereignty of the other country. As far as the readiness is concerned, let me tell you, we are, I mean, perfectly ready. We are battle-hardened people. We are our armed forces. I mean, I can talk about Air Force readiness. It has been the pride of the nation, and it has been ready since so many decades. Since 65 war, I mean, we have maintained our traditions since Mr. Khan Saab and Nur Khan Saab. I mean, they created an air force which has maintained its traditions of valor, traditions of uh, you know uh, good professionalism, tradition of excellent training. So these are the traditions which have been carried along until today. It was visible in Pulwama. Pulwama wasn't planned at that very time. Pulwama was conceived and planned earlier. It was trained in such a manner that that particular mission was just a normal sort of mission for the youngsters, the young leadership. They carried out a tactical sort of mission and achieved excellent results. So as far as our training is concerned, we have evolved ourselves over a period of time, whether it be the campaign planning, whether it be the counter-terrorist operations. Pakistan Air Force has evolved over a period of time and have, through indigenous measures, mostly, have created certain tools, techniques, and procedures of training where we are able to have all sorts of modern equipment at our disposal and give our youngsters the best of the training through whatever means we is possible, because the modern technology has gone to a level. where it is going to make difference in any of the future conflict. Not only that, Pakistan Air Force has been able to induct 4.5 generation aircraft, but also we have been able to fuse them, we were able to integrate them with our existing systems so that we have a common operating picture whenever we are flying. We are having a transparency, we are having the visibility not only across the border of the enemy, but also within ourselves, so that we are able to, target our enemy in a well coordinated manner. And that is part of our training. So the training in Pakistan Air Force has been very rigorous. I've been repeatedly saying this thing, and we have never compromised on our standards. We have never compromised on induction of new technology, and that has been one of the hallmarks, I would say. And the response, if I mean, the hypothetical scenario which you were saying, that if by any chance the Indian Air Force tries to do that, then the response is going to be much more aggressive than what it was in 2019, where we were able to show some restraint. But this time, I perhaps strongly believe there won't be any restraint, because we strongly believe that there is no room for any violation of our sovereignty. Aerial frontiers or any other frontiers should not be violated at any cost. And that is the last red line which is there. For that, the response cannot be, I mean, I cannot really define it at present, but it's going to be much more excessive than what they think. It's going to be asymmetric.
All right, all right. Air Marshal Amir Masood Sahab, thank you very much. Let's come to our guests in the studios. Farzana, Yaqoob Sahiba, you've heard Air Marshal Sahab talk in detail about the battle readiness of our forces, and of course we've shown it in 2019. And despite the fact that they might make people heroes, but the fact is that the reality is quite the opposite. Abhinandan being a case study in that, and we have one of theirs in our jails as well as we speak. But when we look at the people in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, we've seen many videos that have emerged recently in which the people within the Indian Hill Valley also have shown their allegiance with Pakistan and have opposed any such activity that the Indians are claiming through the media. Is the people power going to become stronger in the days to come?
One, culturally, Kashmiris are very welcoming. They are great hosts. So no matter what India does, but Kashmiris do not attack their guests, and tourists are guests. So in Indian occupied Kashmir, whatever has happened, none of the Kashmiris are happy with this incident. Having said that, they've also been providing assistance. The local people were actually over there to help them out, whoever was left remaining. All of this at one side, but does that mean that Kashmiris in Indian occupied Kashmir would they face the brunt of whatever is happening? Yes, they are, because post Pahalgam, Indian atrocities have increased. So this could be that final push that could completely get people out of this this jail, this fear that India has created within Kashmir, within these houses where these people live. The kind of fear that they have to face, they can't express themselves. Even if they express themselves on social media, the Indian authorities apprehend them, they throw them in jails, there are no FIRs. The kind of the kind of legislature that they have, the kind of laws that they have, and all of that, they can't question the Indian authorities and the army personnel who inflict such crimes. They cannot be questioned, nothing can happen. So this could be one of the reasons, but we can see overwhelming response of the Kashmiris. You know what India had been portraying, that they're they're settled and we've developed them, and that the numbers of what number of crores are being thrown and developed and this and that, and Kashmiris are happy. Kashmiris have clearly shown that is a fake narrative. You know, there
You
are
know,
videos of people picking up Pakistani flag that don't throw it on the floor
and just
don't
look
do
at the
that.
recent video that has also come in, which the Indian government has deliberately painted the Pakistani flag on their roads, and they are pushing people to, ride past it or walk past them. We've been joined by Ahmer Bilal Soofi. He's a senior analyst. Thank you very much, Ahmer Bilal Soofi sahab, to have joined us. I'd like to understand the Indus Water Treaty that has been put in abeyance by India. There is no clause for suspension as far as the treaty itself is concerned. How should India's recent actions, in your point of view, be interpreted legally and diplomatically?
Well, India's actions, unfortunately, are against international law that has been developed relating to upper and lower riparian water distribution. This law has been prevalent, practiced, implemented through treaties and through customary norms in all the continents, including Africa, Europe, and of course the subcontinent itself. In 1960s, India and Pakistan negotiated this treaty, which was simply not to stop or prevent the flow of the waters, but simply to regulate it at best. And the India was required to submit engineering drawings of every project that was to be made upstream, and that is just what this treaty was about, while giving 3 rivers to India and 3 to Pakistan. Now, the one that have been given to Pakistan, including the river Indus, for which India is the upper riparian and Pakistan is the low riparian, they have no right whatsoever to obstruct the water flow. And this right is neither implied nor explicit. And that is why there has been a well negotiated treaty in which both the sides agreed not to terminate it and not to alter it without the consent of the other, and no unilateral action was permissible or authorized under the text of the treaty. This omission is quite deliberate, and it is because it was felt appropriate by the negotiators in 1960s that it will not serve the cause of treaty well, neither it will inspire guarantee or confidence of the other party if one of the two parties is given any unilateral power. So it was explicitly ousted. However, today India exercises this so-called right of holding in abeyance the treaty, and consequent to that, their media, their channels, and their spokespeople, what they are saying is that they now have acquired the right to stop the water in some form or to obstruct its flow to Pakistan. This is a threat which is absolutely in violation, as I said, of the norms of international law relating to upper and lower riparian. And therefore, no world power has come to support or endorse the Indian action. As you may notice in the last few days, since India took this action, no European country has agreed to it. They have not endorsed or appreciated it. No North American or South American country, no other country has given any statement stating that India is within its rights. Normally, whenever an incident of such nature happens, there are either way positions being taken. And the reason is that this is so absolutely contrary. Again, as I say, Pakistan all Pakistanis, including the government of Pakistan, feels aggrieved by any incidents of terrorism, whether on Indian soil or Pakistani soil. But that cannot be made the pretext to suspend a treaty that enjoys consistent sanctity for so many years. And in any case, the treaties which divide the water or regulate the water flow and the boundary treaties, they are always accorded extraordinary sanctity under international law, way above the normal treaties are. So there is hardly a precedent in which, on the pretext of a terrorism incident, a water treaty has been declared to be suspended effectively, and one country, i.e. the upper riparian, assumes the role of making up its mind and choice whether it will let the water flow or not.
All right. Ahmed Bilal Sufi sahab, how important becomes the role of the World Bank under these situations for the enforcement as well as for the preservation of the Indus Water Treaty? What tools does a guarantor like the World Bank, in your point of view, have for at its disposal under these circumstances?
Well, the World Bank can use its good offices vis-a-vis India. It may not have a direct legal role within the text of the treaty, except at the time when dispute resolution mechanism is being invoked. But nevertheless, it is a powerful institution, and it has a role whereby it can diplomatically convince India to turn back the clock on this matter, as we say.
All right. Thank you very much, Ahmed Bilal Soofi Sahab, to have joined us, senior analyst Ahmed Bilal Soofi, giving us his point of view as far as the Indus Water Treaty that has been put in abeyance by India following the false flag operation in Pahalgam. We've also been joined by Farhan Bokhari. He's a senior analyst. Farhan Bokhari Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us. Farhan Bokhari Sahab, I'd like to understand the different videos and the different comments that have been coming following the Pahalgam false flag operation. There seems to be a lot of confusion and a lot of questions that are being asked by the people at hand. Is this situation being handled, in your point of view, by India in a proper manner in the days to come, as more and more the reality comes to the forefront regarding this false flag operation? Do you feel that all fingers will now effectively within India also point towards the inefficacy of the Indian government?
Thank you. I wish I understand Indian behavior so that I could help you understand better where the Indians are coming from. But the reality in brief is that from the moment this attack happened in Pahalgam, India's behavior has been very questionable, legal grounds, and even otherwise on simple logical grounds. For example, within minutes of this attack, the Indians began pointing the finger very heavily towards Pakistan, as if they had a clear-cut blueprint of the trail in front of them, which somehow or the other linked Pahalgam to a group in Pakistan, or Pakistan in some way, either directly or indirectly. And this was, and still is, I guess, very hard for people to understand how they could move so swiftly to make this connection, unless this was some kind of a work of magic. So that's part of the baffling aspect of India's behavior within these recent days. Also, the other problem is that, as Amir Bilal Soofi just pointed out, and I think he's right in pointing out, that India's conduct seems to be quite removed from the legal provisions of this treaty. For example, putting it in abeyance, the word that was used right from day one, or effectively suspending this treaty in this manner, quite unilaterally, or definitely unilaterally, is something which is not provided within the provisions of the treaty, as far as I know. So then the question is, what is India trying to prove? And then finally, by creating this very, very tense atmosphere between two nuclear-armed countries in the 21st century, both armed heavily with nuclear weapons. This is one of those areas, probably the only area where India and Pakistan stand shoulder to shoulder. We've often heard of India's much larger advantage when it comes to the size of their economy, geography, and so on. But the area where India does not have such a clear advantage is the matter of nuclear bombs, nuclear weapons, where Pakistan has kept pace with India's development in this area. And this is something which is internationally documented as well. So ultimately, you have to ask yourself if India's reaction in this entire episode, A, has been totally reckless, and on the face of it, seems to be so. And on the other hand, very irresponsible. And that also seems to be the case. Now, Finally, also I should say that compared to 2019, the last time that Pakistan and India had an encounter of sorts, the Abhinandan episode, which we are all aware of. Since then, Pakistan in key areas has made an advancements as far as its defensive capability is concerned. During these years, Pakistan has acquired a batch of new fighter planes from China, the J-10. More importantly, the J-10s and also the JF-17 Block 3 have both come equipped with the longer range air-to-air missiles, the PL-15s. This is also in the public domain. So I hope the Indians will consider these developments before they decide to be more reckless and before they decide to step up this entire period of tension into a real life clash. I hope that it doesn't come to that.
All right. Thank you very much, Farhan Bokhari Saab, senior analyst, to have joined us, to have given us your point of view as far as Indian machinations are concerned and how they are moving forward and how they need to introspect before they make any further decisions. Thank you very much, Farhan Saab, to have joined us. Coming to you, Farzana, Yaqoob Sahiba, Kashmiri students are targeted in India after the Pahalgam incident. There is a Muslim MLA in Assam, Aminul Islam, who's been arrested for exposing Pahalgam's false flag operation. And there are other students who have also openly talked about the fear that they have following this Pahalgam false flag operation and how India is using it to further malign, to further portray or perpetrate atrocities on the Indian Muslims that are, or the Muslims that are in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Will this new chapter of violence against the Kashmiris in the Indian Hill Valley continue unabated? Can this be put to a stop, and if so, by whom? Will India ever realize whatever it is doing is to not only the disadvantage of the Muslims in the Indian Hill Valley, but also ultimately to the disadvantage of India itself?
No, India will never realize. We have to accept that because providing India any kind of space or any kind of understanding that maybe this or that, no, India has a proven track record that one, it is not interested in human rights. It is not interested in negotiating or even having any conversation when it comes to Kashmir. It calls Kashmir its integral part. So India is a delusional state which will never come to its senses. What we must look at the current, when we look at the current situation, I must appreciate the way not only the Pakistani media has come up, but also the way the government and the way the parliamentarians have spoken up against this false flag. It is very interesting that finally the parliamentarians in the National Assembly are speaking about the greater picture, how India is, Pakistan is one of its victims, just like Canada, just like America. Pakistan too is a victim of Indian state-sponsored terrorism and more than anyone else. So, and the other thing that I have been seeing is that I see a little bit within the Indian media, probably because Modi's popularity is really going down, that there are people who are questioning not only how Pahalgam could be false flag, but also questioning their own government.
All right. I'd like to understand, our Interior Minister talked about an FIR. An FIR was filed at the Indian police station in Pahalgam false flag operation that has completely exposed the Indian government's lies. Because why? Because this FIR is lodged barely 10 minutes after the operation as apparently is held. And the FIR talks about the operation that lasted between 13:50 and 1:50 p.m. to 2:20 p.m. And which is just surprisingly in just 10 minutes, and at 2:30 the FIR is lodged at that police station that is 6 kilometers away from the spot. Unidentified cross-border terrorists are named as part of a pre-planned plan in this FIR. And also the FIR says there was indiscriminate filing by the alleged terrorists, whereas the Indian government kept on harping it one way or the other. And of course they use the term at the behest of foreign masters, that is also added in the FIR. This false flag drama and then followed by this FIR, doesn't it expose the whole Indian conspiracy?
Of course it does, because if Kashmiris were involved, if a Kashmiri had actually gone and tried to file an FIR, there is no way that the Indian army, the Indian police ever registers our FIR. We have known that for a long time. For such an instantaneous FIR, which is like within such a short time frame, it just clearly whatever all of us have been saying, it is indeed a false flag. They've tried to plan it very nicely, and when you look at the photographs, they're really well choreographed. It is sad, but you have to admit, people who are from the media, they can clearly see that these are very well choreographed photographs. Who was busy in all of this time taking photos? How come people were so vigilant? When such an incident happens, everyone is scared for their life, but someone was busy taking photos, and someone was also busy reporting, someone was busy registering an FIR, and everything was going perfectly. But who has suffered? Look at what has happened after that. Kashmiris have suffered. They did not do this, but as India has always done, it tests, it does these experiments, and then who does it go after? Kashmiris. Post Pahalgam, so many houses have been destroyed. Thousands of people once again have been arrested. Sooner or later we will find out that we don't know where they have gone.
But this is something that we will also be seeing in the coming days, and we don't know how this is going to fall out, but the fact remains, Farzana Yaqoob Sahiba, that Pakistan's narrative is clear. Pakistan's narrative is also been made clear by our Interior Minister, who says the world needs to see who is behind all of this, and the need for an independent, transparent inquiry by neutral entities. That is the need of the hour, as has been highlighted by our Prime Minister and our Interior Minister as well. We end this transmission for the moment. We have to go to our news, but after that this transmission will continue with other anchors. Stay tuned right here to PTV World as we give you the most objective and real narrative as to what is happening. Allah Hafiz.